life, gathering, and dying. Where in the cycle of gathering the best relationships, gathering the most material possessions, gathering a body which is beautiful, and gathering conceptual knowledge. These are the four main things we are spending our whole life gathering. But our life is not meant for gathering, because gathering is attaching, it is grasping. There is a holier purpose, a bigger purpose for our existence, which is to be with God. Now, if you're not in satsang, it can sound like another just conceptual statement. Oh, I have to be with God. Now, where can I find God? I don't know. God can't be seen, so how can I be with God? So it sounds like something very nice to say, but not really livable. But if you've been in satsang, then you know that it's an actual possibility for us that we can live our life either caught up in the play of Maya, in the grasping, gathering, suffering, with its momentary sparks of seeming joy, or we can live a life which is different, which is devoted to the divinity which is possible for us to immerse ourselves in. And to immerse ourselves in the divinity is the source of true knowledge. Capital K knowledge only comes from there. True love, true peace, and true joy is only possible over there. So, what can happen is that we can look at even situations where we are just talking about food. So we can get into the conversation, or the conversation can happen at a surface level, whereas inwardly we can remain anchored in God's love. So the outer activity doesn't have to get in the way or impede our spirituality in any way. Because these things can be very compelling. That this is a very simple topic that can be thrown up, but topics like this, like money, like relationship, like romantic things, like lust, like greed, all of these can be very compelling. And the greatest sages, there are stories of them getting caught up in all these temptations. You see? So take a Vishwamitra or a Narad, enough stories of all of them. Take a King David, enough stories of all of them getting caught up in worldly temptation. So, and our life may not seem as dramatic or important as theirs, but it is. Because our life has the exact same potential that all of them had. Because fully in love with God is fully in love with God. It doesn't matter what the world takes you to be a great sage or just a stupid fool, foolish beggar. It doesn't matter. In fact, foolish beggar is better for our ego. So, our life has the potential to be the life of a saint. It doesn't matter if we didn't go to a gurukul or a convent, if we are not in a lineage of priests or spiritual lineages of any sort. It doesn't matter. I promise you that your life can be that of a saint. It's only a question of a few small decisions every day. With those, we offer our will to God, and the rest is the power that He gives us. He moves our life in a way. Otherwise, there was no chance that this boy who was an atheist, only interested in computers and computer games mostly, could come to a place where he's sharing satsang. all by His grace. And I didn't do any great sadhana, I didn't read any great books, little of everything I did. But when I look at the lives of sages, I see that and I say how much it took, how much effort, how much devotion it took for them to come to Atma Darshan, Atma Gyan. And for what reason has it been bestowed on this foolish boy? It must be so that I can share it with all of you. I can't fathom any other reason. That all of you and maybe one of you will share it with millions, who knows? So God is using this foolish beggar as this instrument in this small way to turn your life towards God. And all of you are following quite well. Quite well. I just have to keep reinvigorating the fire because it needs a lot of fire to keep burning for us, because worldly topics can become all consuming very fast. So when we engage in worldly topics also, we should keep ourselves light. We don't have to become really invested in the heart about it. You see, because all of this will sort itself out by God's grace. So, but if you remain inward facing, antarmukhi sada sukhi, inward facing, always happy, always content, and then these worldly things will also flow, because yes, bodies need to be taken care of, all that needs to happen, but try it out. You can continue to be inward facing and these things can flow, except if you put all of yourself into the outer, but be anchored in the inner, at work, in any situation. Try to be anchored in God's presence. Then your actions will also be purified in a way, although I'm not a great fan of that word, but filtered through the love of God's presence. So, and then the outpouring of God's love in your heart will be shared with all of your brothers and sisters in a very natural way. And the true purpose of our life will be then fulfilled. So, what is the way to stay like that? God's name, simplest anchor you can have. If you can't do anything else, can we say take God's name once? Everybody can. Can we take it once more? Everybody can. Can we take it once more? Everybody can. So from just being able to take it once to it becoming nirantar is a possibility for all of us. But we must recognize the holiness of that. In a way, even if we are new to spirituality, we must recognize the value in that. That even if my mind is anchored in God's name, it cannot create the trouble that it creates without an anchor. And if you anchor it in other things, it creates more vasanas, more conditioning. So God's name is the only safety mechanism for the mind. So in my earlier days in Satsang, very easily I used to share about just drop the mind. And in the moment, it does happen. And if you're open enough, it can happen like that. But then I realized it's not so approachable. Although it sounds exciting, an instant path to enlightenment, all of that. So, but this process of love, which is to be in remembrance of God's name constantly, is something that should be required almost for everybody in the world. It's required for everybody, but not everybody will follow that, of course. So then you will find, and somebody wants to agree with me on all this, please feel free to. So you will find that initial few days it is effort to take God's name continuously. And if you had a break from it, now I don't know, satsang has been on a pause for some time, so some of you may not be doing it with the fire that you used to. Yeah? But suppose, even if you're restarting now, it's fine. So just keep taking the favorite name of God, ADS. If you don't like ADS, then whatever, in whichever way you like. Yeah? Stay with God in the way that resonates with you in the most beautiful way. Start with the one that resonates in the most beautiful way, because soon it will be very irritating anyway. Right? Because the mind will rebel, it doesn't want to come under control, so it will resist anyway. So you start with the most loving one, then you have the best chance of following through. But if you follow through, then you will find that automatically it will keep happening. That you are not chanting anymore, the chanting is going on. So the japa becomes ajapa. It's very beautiful. The sound like a great deal, isn't it? I don't even have to chant, it just happens on its own. But it doesn't happen on its own unless you're not valuing it. You know, like a diya, you have to shelter it from the breeze. In the same way, the ajapa has to be sheltered by the temptations of the world. Because if you indulge in Maya, in the constructs of Maya, then you will find that the ajapa stops. And all of this I'm speaking from experience. So the ajapa doesn't happen, it's like you start putting the effort again. You see? Because now it's become, like I was saying, a selfish, one-sided relationship. So now I need to give it some attention. So shelter your practice in that way, which means that. So Jyotima, I feel, asked, he said, when Jesus said watch and pray, what did he mean? So this is what it means to watch and pray. Don't allow yourself to get distracted too much. 100% of course is impossible, but don't get distracted too much into worldly things. You see, and I've seen when it happens with me, is that when I get a nudge from within to pray, but I'm like, let me watch this movie instead. Or let me do this. Which is nothing against movies. You can still be inward facing inward. But when I know I'm spreading myself thin, going outwards, and I'm being nudged, and I still don't listen, then you see, I don't feel like God doesn't nudge and slaps first. He nudges many times, thousands of times. So I'm nudged, and when I don't follow, then I have to then after that put a lot more effort. See, otherwise, right now we've been sitting in a sangha field for some time, so it's effortless. The diya is burning, it's strong, it's not so easy to shake. But if you're sitting on the stock market, you're getting calls about your company's deal happening, then something is happening, your child is unwell, all this going on, which is day-to-day life for all of us, then you have to guard the temple a bit, guard the light a bit. So that is the first. So it becomes ajapa. Then what happens is that you will start to notice that it falls into your heart. Whereas attention earlier used to be like that, then somehow you feel like it is there. This is there. And it feels like I'm chanting from here. So it becomes like a prayer from the heart, where I'm chanting, I'm still doing the work, but I'm praying from the heart. And it's so pristine and beautiful and full of love. So that means our prayer is now gone to a deeper place. And so merciful, so sweet of God to give us these physical representations also of a spiritual process actually. It has nothing to do with the body, but He makes us feel as if it's happening in these layers, so that we can grasp it better. So then that becomes so mixed in love, then the bhava comes in the japa.